Section 8 clients. Do you get like a list of people?
My name is Aline, and I just recently...
Okay.
So think about your workflow. Again,
I don't know how to do it.
I know how to do it, and I'm trying to instruct other people to do better in their business, but I also have to do better in my business. Hey, everyone out there in YouTube land, listen, this and Facebook, how you guys doing today? My name's Randy Stedwell. If you haven't been with us before, we have a gentleman named Johnny Stewart III. He is a gentleman that we have, that I've connected with through networking, and somebody else put us together, and he is a wholesaler in the Nashville, Tennessee market. Sorry about my distraction here. I'm getting the Facebook group pulled up on my phone, and let's see, and it's not coming up. All right, so there we go. All right, anyways, that'll come up anyways. So with that being said, he is actually a guy that went from being a college student, an athlete, and instead of trying to get a 9-to-5, he went straight into wholesaling. And he is remarkable. We're going to tell his story here. So without further ado, also put your questions in the comments so we can answer them live. All right. Without further ado, Johnny, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be on. Really excited. Thank you for this opportunity. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all. So we're very happy to have you. So tell me a little bit about how you got started. Like, where did even the words or wholesaling come from you? How did you know about it? What did you do? Tell me everything that you know.
Yeah. So it's kind of a crazy story how I got into real estate. I actually got my finance degree, and I was expected to take over a wealth management firm. That was kind of my out the gate. That's what I wanted to do. Work under one guy and just take over his business when he retired. I had a massive injury that kind of shifted everything. And I got to the point where I was like, I really don't want to work for somebody else. So in that year long of just recovering, I watched a whole lot of YouTube, and I didn't know which area I wanted to go. And I didn't even know if real estate was something that I wanted to do. I just watched a whole lot of YouTube, like, hey, how do you make money, right? And wholesaling presented itself over the thousands of options. And I was like, I love helping people. I love talking to people. And I always told myself I wanted to get into real estate one day. So I just watched about a week of YouTube videos wholesaling, and then I just started picking up the phone and calling people.
Got it. Okay. So with that, like, you said you watched a lot of YouTube videos. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay.
So how did that come about? As far as did you say, oh, I want to make $10,000? Did you think that this was going to be full time? Like, a lot of people's like, oh, I'm going to make $10,000 in like 2 days or one day or whatever.
Like, all the clickbait says, oh, you make $10,000 real quick, right? And that's what drew me in. So I started looking at it, and did I know I was going to be full time as a wholesaler? Absolutely not. But I knew that I wanted to make money, and I wanted to create a name for myself and a business for myself. And I knew that this would probably be the way that you can get into real estate with no money down. So I got into it thinking, oh, it'll probably just take me a month to get a deal, and that would be it. And it took multiple months to get a deal and to actually learn. So that whole thing of, oh, you get $10,000 in 30 days, make 2 phone calls, you got somebody. That's just not the case. And I learned that very quickly that wasn't the plan. So I kind of understood real estate and understood the long game. So I was like, this is what I want to do. This is the best thing that I can do to help me learn. So I definitely took some time for real.
How long did it take you to get your first deal?
So I like to break it up, right? Technically, it took me about 7 months. And I started my LLC in June of 2022, and I was still in college until that December. So that gap right there, I was part-time. I made maybe 2 or 3 phone calls a day, but really didn't take it seriously. As soon as I graduated, I was like, I'm hitting the ground running, and this is what I want to do. So it took me until early February, late January, early February for my first deal to actually close and I get a check. So it really like 7-8 months, but I like to say, the 2 months I took it seriously. I finally hammered in something. Okay.
All right. So what was your strategy in the beginning? Was it all cold calling? Did you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What lists were you going after?
Yeah, cold calling.
Different ones.
When I first started, I was trying everything under the sun. And I think that was my biggest problem when I first started. I was calling absentees for a day, then switching over to vacants, and then tax liens, and then I would dabble in foreclosure sometimes. I was just all over the map, and I was just doing cold calling. I just started, didn't have any marketing budget, and I was literally punching in the numbers on my cell phone and giving them a call. So that was my whole strategy when I first started. And I've since switched to kind of hone what I like and what I'm good at down, and that's how I was able to get my first deal.
And so, what is that you honed in?
Foreclosures. Okay. I got to the point. I used to watch a lot of Pace Morby. I'm sure you've heard his name before. I watched a lot of them, and the thing was, if you want your first deal, go after pre-foreclosures. So I just started going after them. It's funny. I typed into Google, I'm like, foreclosures in Tennessee. And I sifted through like 50 Google pages till I finally found a site that is updated daily that has all the notices for the state of Tennessee. So I started just hand making the list every morning, hand making a list, skip tracing them by hand using the Fast People search for free, building a list. So it'd take hours to build that list, but it turned out to be actually pretty good list because that's how I've gotten 1 deal, 2 deals, 3 deals. That's how I got a lot of my beginning deals.
Okay. Now you're not still doing it that way, are you?
I am. But see, I'm smart now. So I've put some of my friends are doing it that way, and they're building the list for me, and I'm just making the calls. So at first it was me, but I've put my friends in place to be able to do it now.
Are you paying your friends to do it?
Yeah, I'm giving them $100 for every 300. So I'm not paying them a lot, but they're getting something in there involved too. So it's a win-win for both.
All right. So I'll need to talk to you about hiring a VA to do that type of work, because that right there will save you a lot of time. You hire somebody from overseas, you pay them $5 an hour.
Yeah.
You show them what you're doing, what to do, and they'll create that for you. So especially if you don't care about whether they're talking to people or not, and it's just mundane, busy stuff, it'll definitely help you. So
absolutely. We'll definitely talk about that. And that's something that I wanted to do and just haven't gotten around to it, honestly.
Okay. Awesome. So with that being said, it's what do you contribute your first deal to? Was it the pre-foreclosures or was it something else?
Yeah, pre-foreclosures. That's every deal that I've gotten under contract myself has been a pre-foreclosure. I've JV'd other ones, but everything that I've done myself have all been pre-foreclosures, and all have come from that public notice list that I was talking about.
Awesome. So what do you JV as well?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So, tell me how it works when you JV with somebody. Do you go out looking for somebody to JV with?
So actually I don't. I've built enough following and enough people. I've networked with a lot of people that when they get a deal, they just bring it to me like, hey, do you mind if we just move this? And I know a lot of buyers in the state of Tennessee, so I just send it over to them, and we can typically get that assigned. I've done 5 of those where it's just like, hey, here's here's my deal. Here, I got it under contract, and I just bring a buyer to the table. I really like JVing because it's just a very, very simple process so far.
So far, yeah. I do a lot of JVing myself because we have the Facebook group, and I do have quite a bit of a buyer's list for our area. So
Awesome.
Now Johnny Stewart has a question. What's the best approach to speaking with potential clients? Now, Johnny, let me know if you're talking about potential buyers or potential sellers. If you can leave a comment, that'd be great. But either way, what's your take on that?
I think the best way is to just get out there and do it. There's no one way, one shoe fits all type of approach. You just have to be yourself. So just get out there, have the conversation with that person, and just be genuine. Being genuine and having that conversation and allow it to flow naturally is the best advice that I could give anybody first starting out. Just pick up that phone and have a conversation. It's a person just like you are, just how you would talk to anybody any other day. You have another person on the phone. Just have that conversation. There's no one rule that fits everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, he replied back with saying sellers. So I completely agree with you. In my opinion, you got to be yourself, because if you're not yourself and being authentic, then it's gonna show 100%.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is find out the information, talk to them like another person. Hey, would you be interested in selling? If yes, okay, great. If no, okay, that's perfectly fine too. Tell them what you do and move on.
Exactly.
I always say this in my videos, that we are not here to convince anybody to sell their house. We are here to offer them options.
Absolutely.
That is it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're not convincers. We're not. So I heard Brent Daniels say, we're not deal creators, we're deal finders. So we're not taking somebody's situation and trying to create a deal out of it. We're just picking up the phone, seeing if you want a solution, and we can be that solution for you.
Yeah, I was actually just watching them just before we joined. I was just watching them on Wholesale Hotline. So that was live.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with that. So Miss Tammy B says, what is that one thing not to say to a buyer when you are looking to build a buyer's list?
Tim, that's a good question. And you can kind of go at it a couple of different ways. I've heard a lot of people say, don't mention that you're a wholesaler. But I think mentioning that you're a wholesaler is to your advantage. Let that buyer know, like, hey, I'm actively looking for properties. So tell me what you're looking for. And if I find something, I want to bring it to you. The one thing that you probably shouldn't say is you don't want to come off as cocky, as if you know what you're doing. Because these buyers, they like having their ego stroked a little bit, right? So you want to come to them like, hey, I want to help you. So this is what I'm doing, and I want to bring value to you. So it's not what you shouldn't say, but just always bring value to them, because they like to be in a position of power, kind of, and they want you to be able to help them out, if that makes sense.
100%. And actually, I want to add to that is I would actually say there's not one thing not to say. You say everything to them, but you have to add this to them. You let every buyer know that hey, if I send you a deal and it does not work for you, okay, please don't feel offended. I want your feedback. Okay, you might not get the deal, okay, but the thing is that you want all that feedback, because that tells you if enough buyers are telling you the exact same thing, that tells you where the market's at. And that's how you get your idea on what's the market. And say you're at $100,000 on a property. We're just using round numbers, for example. Yeah. And they're like, listen, I'm only going to be able to be at 80 because of X, Y, Z, things like that. Well, listen, you can't sell it to anybody else. Nothing's happening. You go back to the seller and say, hey, because of XYZ, we need to get a price reduction. You know, I can probably get this down. If we can meet at 70 or 75, if you just want to be able to make quick $5,000, whatever your profit is, then we can close within 2 weeks. Now you go back to that buyer that gave you that option, that price, and say, if we close this right here at that 80, how about it? Right now, week closing, great. And I've had that happen to me. So I always want feedback.
Yeah, just to bounce off that, feedback from your buyers is so important because they're the eyes. They're the one. It's their money, right? They're the one with the money. You're just negotiating the deal. So what they say is vitally important. And also, one might give you feedback and say, hey, this doesn't work for me. I'm looking for this. But another person can say, oh, that's perfect. So now you know, okay, if I get a deal like this, I need to bring it to him. If I get a deal that fits his idea, his or her idea, I need to take it to him or her, you know? So one of those things where that feedback is so important.
No, 100%. I agree. And I think is what has made me successful in our Detroit market, is telling all my buyers, because they're used to, and this is the worst thing a wholesaler can do, is when they get lowballed, they just scuff and okay, on to the next person.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many other wholesalers do that. They scuff, oh no, I can't do that, and on to the next. Well, what you need to be doing is asking them why they are that low. What's going on? Now, if they're sitting here telling me, what do you have it on your contract for? What do you want? You know, what's your fee? What's this? You don't need to know my fee. I want to know what it works for you. Okay. You'll know it at closing. I don't really care about that. But what price does it make it work for you? Then I'll try to figure it out. If I can get a price reduction, I will. But if I can't, great. Now I know where you're at on the next property, and then the next one, you know? So I've had that before where a buyer just will just ghost me. And hey, what about that Farmington Hills property? You know? And we're like, well, we're going to be really low, you know, so, you know, we're going to pass. Okay. What is really low? Give me all the feedback. You know, I mean, they were $35,000 under what was asking. Great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Exactly.
Now I know where you're at for the next one. You know,
that feedback is mightily important. Mightily.
100%. So, what difficult situations that you came up with in your time as being a wholesaler that you learned from? Because obviously we don't learn from just all the wins. We learn from those losses. We learn from those difficult times. We learn from all the, you know, the close calls, things like that. So what is say a hard deal or something that you learned a lot from?
So I've had 3 separate occasions where it's been like, wow, welcome to the real estate game. The first one was I was still looking for my first deal. I finally got – it was funny. So 2 weeks prior, I called this lady and she's like, yeah, I'm never selling my house. Get off the phone. Bye. So I just chopped her up like, okay, I don't really want to talk to her anymore. She called me 6 days before the auction on a Thursday and was like, hey, is there a way that you can save my house? Now, I was brand new. So I'm like, yeah, I can't make any promises, but I'll try my best. So I had, and this was on Thursday. So I spent that Friday trying to find a buyer, and which I did. That Saturday and Sunday, you can't do anything with foreclosures. So I had to wait till that Monday. I meet 2 buyers at the property, and they're like bidding back and forth in my face. Now I'm brand new, so I have no idea how this situation is going to go or anything.
You're right.
And one of them's like, look, I'll give you $20,000 right now if I can get this property. Now, being a brand new wholesaler, $20,000, I was like, wow, like, where do I sign? Let's sign right now.
Right.
And the other lady was like, we can match that and potentially give you more. We just have to get in and look at it. And again, I was brand new. I was like, look, I have to go with him who's ready to sign right now because the auction's coming up and he's a sure thing. And I don't know about you. So I went with him. But of course, I didn't have my contract. Like he was ready to sign, but I didn't have it printed out. I only had it on DocuSign. I bring my computer. My computer's dead. Completely unprofessional. My first. Yeah. So he took me over to a title company, had him sign everything. And he was like, hey, the auction's on Tuesday. I mean, on Wednesday. I just need this lady to sign a quick claim deed over to me. And then I'll reinstate the loan so it doesn't foreclose. So I'm like, okay, cool. I can make that happen. Well, I was like, I lived 2 hours away from that property. So I drove back home. And I was like, I'll just hire a mobile notary to go out there. Now fast forward, they had no mobile notary. So I was like, let me just drive down there. But then the buyer was like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll get it handled. So I'm like, okay. So now this is the day of the auction, and we still don't have a quick claim deed signed. Right. So I send the mobile notary out there, and the mobile notary gets in a car accident on the way there. So the quick claim deed never gets signed. The property forecloses on the doorhouse steps, and I don't get $20,000. And fortunately, this lady trusts me to keep her house, and it ended up foreclosing anyways. I felt terrible for, basically trying my best, but I couldn't make it happen. And then also, that was my first deal. That was a good sum of money, and that just kind of poofed. So that was my first big learning experience. And I've had some from there as well.
So here's the kicker is did you learn what you could have done differently in order to, besides the quick claim deed, because in my opinion, a quick claim deed, that's the wrong way to go.
Really?
Yeah. So, because
I was about to say, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because when you asked, what did you learn? Quick claim deeds, the foreclosures that I've done since, quick claim deed has always been the way that I've gone about it, and it's always worked. So what is your opinion on that?
So I don't know state of Tennessee very well. So I can't go by that. I only go by what Michigan says. A lot of times you can go to the bank, and what happens is you say, hey, I have a purchase and sale agreement. They'll hold the foreclosure. They'll stop the foreclosure for, say, 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, if you've done that multiple times, then they're like, no. Okay. A second option is you can have the homeowner can go and file for bankruptcy.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have 30 days to take it back and not follow through.
Yep.
But that stops the foreclosure right there.
Yeah.
Okay. At least pauses it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Until you can close on the property.
See,
now is Tennessee a title state or attorney state?
Title state.
Okay. So it's the same thing as Michigan. Michigan's a title state.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things your title company should know about as well. So because they're dealing with a lot of that.
Absolutely.
So
so back to what you said, I was on the phone with their mortgage company trying my hardest to get it postponed.
Yeah.
But since it was so close to the date, they were like, yeah, we can't do anything about it. I think if I had more experience and I knew the right things to say and the right buttons to press, I think I could have got it postponed. But I was brand new and I didn't. Now, bankruptcy, I didn't even know about that when I was doing this deal. Yeah. Right now, I would absolutely would have had her do that. But I just, again, I was brand new, didn't really know anything. So that was a situation that got by me.
So that's the thing is another thing is when you deal with a bank that's so close, you don't want to talk to the bank. You want to talk to, there's an attorney that takes care of everything.
Yeah, the trustee.
It's a trustee. The bank doesn't give a shit. They'll we'll take it to, it's whatever the trustee says. So the trustee gets paid.
It is. So it's so funny that you say that because in my experience has always been a little bit different, right? One thing that I say, because I've postponed 3 auctions so far, and something that I always tell people is like the trustee is working for that mortgage company. So it's just like if I was working for you, I'm going to do whatever you say. So in my experience, that trustee is just doing whatever that mortgage company says. So if that mortgage company is like, yeah, no, we don't want to work with you, then the trustee's like, there's nothing we can do. So again, we're in 2 different markets, so it could be different. But the 3 that I've dealt with, the trustees are like, we'll send you the reinstatement and the payoff, but other than that, we can't do anything. It's always been the mortgage company.
Got it. Yeah, sometimes what they'll do is the trustee will. A lot of times, the mortgage companies, they have so many on their bank, they don't really want to talk about it, so they just like whatever the trustee says. So they'll always go by usually what the trustee recommends.
Okay.
So it's always a good thing to have a good relationship with those trustees.
Absolutely. Have you ever requested a SPOC, like a special point of contact, through a mortgage company?
I have not. No.
So every time I call, I immediately first call ask for the special point of contact, and that's the one person who you can talk to. They'll give you their direct line. That's the one person you can talk to throughout the whole entire foreclosure. Which when I first started, I was talking to a billion different people, having to re-explain myself every time. But once I found out, let's ask for a SPOC, a special point of contact, I'm going to go through them every time. So it's helped out the process completely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now, do some of these go for, have you gone to the auctions themselves? Like, how does Tennessee work as far as auctions go with foreclosures or even tax auctions, things like that?
Yeah. So I haven't been to the auction myself. In the state of Tennessee, they have to publish a auction in the newspaper 3 times before it can actually be auctioned off. So on this Tennessee public notice website that I was telling you about, that notice goes out to the homeowner, but it also gets uploaded to this website. So it has the address of the home, it has the auction date, everything. So I just pull that address from that and then call the owner directly and try to buy the home before it gets auctioned off. So that's my whole process. I don't go to the auctions. I try to get the home before it gets auctioned off.
So that's really cool. Now we also have tax auctions here. I know you have tax auctions there as well. Yeah. In a tax auction, you had, now this is not for foreclosures, it's just for tax auctions. Yeah. But in tax auctions here, the seller or the homeowner actually has 6 months to redeem the property.
Yeah.
Okay. So whatever the person purchased it with, they'll still have to pay that amount plus interest in order to purchase back. But the problem is that you never know whether you're going to get the house. You got to wait 6 months. That money's tied up, and it's just, you don't know what the condition of the property is going to be.
Really? So you can't see it before the tax auctions?
No. Now, you may even be able to drive by it, but who's to say after the 6 months it's still going to be like that?
Exactly.
Exactly. Because the thing is, now there are ways where you can, if they've abandoned the property, you can get that sped up. Okay. Yeah. But it's very hard to do all that. So people have to know exactly what they're doing. And so a lot of people go around and do exactly what you're doing and get, get them before they go to auction. Yeah. So, Miss Tammy B says, note to self, don't do tax auctions. Now, I will say they are great. Tax auctions are great to find leads and purchase them before they go to auction.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing to actually go after. It's a great list to go after. But it's crazy. Now the CEO said, "Wow, that's a crappy situation on the mobile notary. He's about to become a mobile notary. If I could sign for myself, that would be nice, but I'm sure it's not allowed." Yeah, I know it's not allowed. He also adds in that he'll be the signee, the witness, and the notary all in one. That alter egos. Unfortunately, that doesn't work.
That'd be nice though. It would be nice though. I'd be a mobile notary too, just to make sure I can sign all my stuff.
Yeah. It's unfortunately it's unethical. I've actually had a property here in the Detroit area where, because there was like 4 or 5 quit claim deeds, they actually had to go back and verify each signature on there and make sure. It took like 6 months to get clear title because of that. So, we ended up losing the buyer. We ended up going out. And what actually ended up happening with that one was the seller was getting calls from other wholesalers saying that they'll give them more. And it didn't happen. So like he backed out at the last minute. We finally got clear title. The seller backed out, and he went with the higher offer, and 6 months later, I still see it on the market.
Wow.
And other wholesalers are having it. And I went back to him. I'm like, he asked me to, hey, can you do this again? And I'm like, markets has changed ever since the last time we were with you. Like, so I told him, I was like, I'm going to have to, I think we were at 20 grand. We had it sold for 28. I told him, I was like, I'm going to be up to 10,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, cause it needed a full rehab. The only good thing it had going for it was it was a multi-unit and it was a brick.
Okay. So it had some good bones, but it needed to be touched a little bit.
Oh, it needed to be gutted down to the studs. So it was crazy. But yeah, I mean, Timothy says 7 months to get your first deal. How is your deal flow now?
I average 1 deal a month. Last month was real slow. It's been my first month that I didn't have a deal, but I average about a deal a month now.
Okay. And so with that being said, what's your average wholesale fee?
Around $15,000. My biggest was $30,000, and then on the 9th in a couple of days, I'm getting a $1,000 wholesale fee. So I've been all over the map, but I average about $15,000. I try to shoot for 20, and then go below that if need be.
Yeah, so that's good. I mean, what is the price point of houses in your area? I mean, are they high? Are they low? Like, what's the medium?
So the good thing about me is I do it completely virtual. So I'm all over the state of Tennessee. I've only done one in the city that I live in, and that ARV was like 450 grand because it was right next to the college. But I've done some that are 450. I've done some in Knoxville. They're around 300,000. I've done some in Memphis, and they're around 100, 150,000. So I'm really all over the map with it. Okay. So go ahead. I was about to say my biggest deal, that ARV was like 415. So it was a subject to deal, so and it just made a lot of sense for the buyer. So I was able to get a much higher wholesale fee. Yeah. So here in Detroit area, if you go into Detroit proper, I mean, you're probably the average wholesale fee is around 5 to 10 grand. Really? Yeah, because the price point of houses are anywhere between 20 and 40 grand. Yeah. You know, sometimes 80 to 100, but you know, it's kind of all over the map depending on where you're at. Then you go into the suburbs and you got a little bit higher end, you know, goes from about 90 to about 200 to 250,000. A little bit some nicer areas. You got some higher ARVs. Then you got some other areas where there's some $1 million houses, you know. Wow. Yeah. So it really is subject, you know, to different areas. So the fact that you actually mentioned that you did some creative financing, it brings into this next question is thoughts on novations and creative financing. Ever dabbled in it? So I'm assuming yes. So most of my deals have been subject to. I love sub 2 because it solves problems. and the buyers who want sub 2 are endless. Everybody wants a good sub 2 deal. So disboning the sub 2 is very, very easy. Novations, I haven't done one personally, but I know novations. I actually tried to pitch a novation to one guy who lives down the street from me. He's in the middle of a rehab, and I just wanted to come in, finish the rehab for him, and then list it on the market and then do that. But I haven't done it myself. But as far as creative finance, subject to, I love them. I've pitched seller finance on a few big multifamilies to help out a friend, but I haven't done it myself. Sub 2 is kind of my wheelhouse, and doing foreclosures, sub 2 makes a lot of sense for a lot of those properties.
So that brings to this other question is what is subject to?
That's a great question. Never asked that. That's a great question. Subject to is very simply taking over somebody's mortgage, right? So I'm gonna explain it by using an example. So if my friend Jimmy has a house that he bought a year ago, and Jimmy wants to move across the country to LA, and he's in the military, so he's not really worried about his debt to income or anything, I'll be like, hey Jimmy, I'll give you $5,000. That property will be deeded over to me, and that mortgage will stay in place in Jimmy's name. And I will just be responsible for making a payment towards Jimmy's mortgage each month. So that mortgage stays in place, the deed changes hands into me, and I just start making payments. Jimmy gets his $5,000, moves away, and never thinks about the property again.
That's awesome. That is the best way. The key thing is when talking with the seller, though, you have to let them know that it's going to stay in their name.
Absolutely.
Now, do you ever have and connect up a servicer to service that loan? How do you sell that?
So I've only had it one time where we actually got a servicer in place. Only once. Most of the time, these people are in foreclosure and don't even want to deal with it. And most of the time, they're not just super wealthy and want to go buy another property. They'll just go rent. So I sell it in a way with these people, like, hey, you leave that mortgage in place, I'm going to make payments to it. Now, in 2 or 3 years, when you want to go buy another house, when you're ready, you'll have a performing mortgage on your credit. So your credit score will skyrocket. So I pitch it from that angle where I'm like that whole credit and leaving it in place is actually going to help you in the long run. Now, say in 2 years, this lady wants to buy a new house. Well, we have it shown for 2 years that we're making payments on it. So we're all good. Now, this is another thing I recently learned. Say it's a well-off person and they want to go buy a new house right then and there. We'll actually just buy their house on a lease option, show that they're leasing that property, so it'll automatically come off their debt to income ratio for their new lender.
Okay. Awesome. Hey, there's different ways, there's different tools to do different things.
Absolutely. A billion different ways to do the same thing.
So I just got a few questions in here that I want to go through. So the first one is, Miss Tammy B says, thank you, Tammy B, for all the questions, by the way.
Thank you.
Can you explain the process of a JV if you're a wholesaler? So I have my process, but I'd like to hear yours.
Yeah, so my process is very simple. If somebody comes to me and is like, hey, let's do a JV on this, we can do it one of two ways. We can just sign a JV option agreement, which basically says, hey, I get to market this for 10 days, and if I can't, it just goes back to you. Or we can just sign a regular JV agreement. So for the last JV I did, it was somebody who said, hey, do you have a buyer for this? I'm like, I know the perfect person for that. And they came right in. So I just dispoed it to them like any other deal. And me and that wholesaler just signed a JV contract where we split the wholesale fee 50-50. And then we sent that contract with the purchase and sale agreement with the assignment all to the title company, and they handle that. So one JV contract with both signatures, just outlining how that assignment fee is broken down. That's really all you need.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I do things as well. The difference is I don't have – so I know I should have them sign something first before I start marketing it, but I usually go by word of mouth and say, hey, because the reason why is I say it's only if I bring you the buyer. Okay. If one of your buyers comes through and you want to go with them, you don't have to do anything with me. So it's literally all on me to say, hey, I have this buyer, But rest assured, I'm going to get that JV agreement signed before my buyer signs any assignment at all. So, but yeah, so it's usually, and the biggest thing is that we get a lot of wholesalers that say, hey, go ahead and add your fee on top. And now I tell other people to do that, and that's perfectly fine. But this is how I've been working before, and because I've been burned, where my buyer would be like, well, you're selling it for 40, but I just saw it advertised for 30.
Yeah.
Why don't I just go to them?
Yeah.
And it makes me look bad. It also ruins my credibility with them, and they don't want to buy from me anymore. So I would rather not JV with anybody than do that. So what I tell people is, okay, we both need to advertise it at the same price if you're going to advertise it.
Absolutely.
If you've already advertised it, I can put it out there, but I have to be at the same price as you are, and we'll 50-50 split whatever the assignment fee is.
Absolutely.
If the assignment fee is $2,000, guess what? I'm only getting $1,000, you know? So that's just how it is. With that being, you know, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that's the best way, 50-50 split? Because for me, I've always like, if somebody brings a buyer, you get 50% of the deal, because it's dispo and it's acquisitions. So I did acquisitions, you're dispoing, or I'm dispoing, you did acquisitions, 50-50. I've always done that, but I've seen some people who are like, hey, I'll give you 20% if you bring a buyer, or like you said, add your fee on top. I was always under the impression, or that's the way I like, just 50-50 down the middle.
So it's always a negotiable, okay? And I tell people I am a little negotiable because I do understand if you have a partner, okay? So if, say, you come to me and you already have a partner, okay, and you're like, listen, we can't, I'm splitting whatever I get. You're going to be getting way more than I am if we do 50-50. So like, so they'll come to me like, hey, is there a way you can do 60-40? You know? And as long as the math adds up and it's worth my time, I'll say, sure, why not? You know, but my go-to is 50-50, and then, you know, go from there. I tell people, like, I'm willing to work with people because I want you to come to me multiple times.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so Gianni Stewart says, what is the most challenging when dealing with potential clients / sellers? Do you find it hard because you never claim to be a realtor and that's what most people know?
That's a great question. The fact that I don't disclose I'm a realtor or sound like a realtor actually works to my advantage, because these people want to talk to somebody who they feel is on their same level, right? So I attack it as, hey, I'm just like you. I just want to buy the house. I'm not trying to come with a power and be like, hey, I'm a realtor, I'm trying to list your house. So I think it's actually easier without disclosing that I'm a realtor, or, you know, hey, let me buy your house, or list your house rather.
Yep.
As far as the most challenging with sellers, I would say that once you get, so we're in the business, it's a numbers game, right? We're trying to find motivation. So I think once you find somebody who's motivated, I don't think getting them to sell is hard. The hard part is sitting there and hearing all those no's, and, you know, a bunch of cuss words. But once you get somebody who actually wants to sell and actually wants to talk to you, the conversation's rather easy, and they don't really put up too much of a fight, if that makes sense.
Most definitely. That actually goes into this next question by Dorian. Dorian opens doors. Love the name Dorian, by the way. So that's awesome. Cool. So he says, what do you consider a motivated lead?
That's a great question. And I feel like there's a lot of different answers to that, judging by who you ask and you know, the kind of questions you ask when you're on the phone. To me, a motivated person is somebody who's ready to move now and wants an offer now, right? You get a lot of people who are on the phone who are just like, yeah, just shoot me an offer. I don't think those people are motivated. I judge motivation by what's going on in your life and why do you need to sell? Or what's the reason for selling? Do you want to sell right now? I think those are the motivation questions, And that's how you can tell if a lead is truly, truly motivated by if they actually want to stay in that house or if they just want a number that is above market that they'll take so they can move.
100%. So this is Mike Stedwell, my brother, actually. He says, shoot me an offer. And you get those all the time. And you know how I respond to those is, well, I need to get more information, and they keep pushing. I will literally lowball the crap out of them and see what they say. And I tell them, I say, listen, I got to assume the worst. I got to take this down to the bones.
Yeah.
And I got to assume you're lying to me.
That's a good way. The way that I attack it, I just say, well, how much do you want? They're like, well, show me an offer. Well, how much do you want? Like, I don't want to just throw a number at the wall and, sit here on a guessing game. Tell me what you want. Now, usually when you ask, tell me what you want, they'll say, shoot me an offer, or they'll say an astronomical price that won't work. So those phone calls are typically very quick.
Yeah. So, Tammy B says, I think it's important to connect with the sellers to understand their situation. And that is where rapport comes in 100%. So building rapport is most important. And I think that's where people, they just want to go straight into the offer.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, let me, you said you're interested in selling. Why do you want to sell? What's the reason? Oh, for the right price, then, I literally will probably tell them, hey, I'm probably not your person. I'm an investor. Sorry.
Yeah.
I can connect you with a realtor. Maybe you can get that on the market. Don't know. But if you want, I can have somebody give you a call that I know and trust.
Yeah.
Would you like that? They say, oh, no. It was just if it's the right price, Okay, great. Have a great day.
Exactly. And back to the rapport thing that you were talking about. You can build rapport in one or two ways, and I like both ways. Like asking the questions, diving into their life, building rapport that way by, having a conversation about things you like. Or I like building rapport by showing that person what I can do for them, right? Putting myself in a position of trust with that person by this is what I can do for you and this is how I want to help you. That's how I love building rapport.
Most definitely. So because the thing is like I said before, and like you said actually earlier, we are deal finders, not deal creators.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is very hard to tell people. And I actually find it very, like when I talk to a realtor, it's very hard because they think their house is up here and if I put it on the MLS, I'm going to get this. And I go, probably not. Compared to what I'm looking at, I go, and I may stroke the ego a little bit, I go, you know what? Maybe you will. I don't know. But as an investor, I got to be able to make money.
Yeah.
And, I say, after I fix it up and sell it, I got to pay commissions, closing costs, all of that stuff. I go, on average, it takes it's about 10 to 11% to sell a house after the fact, once I flip it. So now I got to subtract that. And I had one guy say, well, I'm not going to have you make $100,000 off of me. I go, where did you get $100,000?
Yeah.
And we run down the math. I go, okay, but then I still got to pay. And I let him know that I'm like 11%. Okay. You take that away. I'll be lucky to make 50. And that's because I'm spending 6 months to do the work.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's, sometimes you got to run the numbers. Sometimes they're too emotional,
Yeah.
So
don't even get me started on agents. I have a love-hate relationship with agents. So
okay. So I gotta, what parts of you said you do all over Tennessee. Okay.
Yep.
Now, are you more in the rural areas or are you more in the city?
I'm more in the city. I don't like to touch the rural areas too much. or if there's a big city, I like to go to the cities around it, like 40 minutes around. But I like to stay in the city. I'm not really in the rural areas at all.
Got it. So, and yeah, most definitely, like that is because it's harder to comp in rural areas. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Being land, and it's harder to find buyers for rural areas as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, unless you're selling to a retail buyer, that's really the only time. So, Johnny Stewart says, "Is there ever a time to play hardball with a seller? Like reality is a tough pill to swallow for some people."
That's another great question. I think there is a time, and that time comes after you've already built that trust with the person. So I know many times the third, fourth, or fifth phone call with a person, we have a great relationship, and I just tell them, hey, listen, do you mind if I tell you something, and do you promise not to hate me? That's how I like to enter it. They're like, yes, I promise. And I'll just hit them straight with the facts. This is what we're thinking. So that automatically puts their guard down because I got their permission to say something that might tip them off a little bit, right?
Okay.
So that's how I attack those kind of hard questions, hard comments that I have to make, is just by telling them, hey, look, do you mind if I tell you something, and do you promise not to hate me? That I like to be the nice guy in those conversations. So I've pulled that line out many times, and it's always worked. But there is a time where you kind of have to get, hardball with these people. It's not one of those things where you're doing it on the first call because you don't have that rapport built with them yet. That's something that happens later on when you have to really get down and dirty with them and let them know exactly what's going on.
And the key thing is that once you find out why they're selling and the reason, when you do have to play the hardball, you have to tell them, hey, you really want this to happen. You need to move out of state, by XYZ time. Really, this is the only way you're going to be able to do that. These are your options to meet your timeline.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I won't be your buyer outside of that. I'd love to work with you, and I let people know, hey, I'll give you as much advice as you want, but I'll always be straight up with you.
Exactly. Kind of using their own wishes and wants to get them to a place where okay, you're right, let me move forward now.
Right, exactly. So, Tammy is saying, I think it's hard being new because I don't know what I can do besides finding a buyer.
Tammy,
yeah.
Thank you so much for your activity, Tammy. You have kind of made this with all your questions, so thank you so much. Tammy, I'm going to be real frank with you, okay? Pick up that phone and call somebody. Even if you're just calling agents in your market, just get on the phone and talk to somebody. Now, that whole thing of, should I find a buyer first? Should I find a seller first? Everybody has their own opinion on that, and we're all different. But one thing I do know is that the only way to get a deal is to pick up the phone or to be around people who are doing deals. So I challenge you to pick up that phone and call somebody. Even if you call the nicest house on the MLS, just the fact that you talk to an agent, that's what you need to get started. Don't get caught in that analysis paralysis. Like right now you're watching us talk, which is great, but that's not, you're not on the phone. You're learning, but you're not on the phone. So don't get caught in learning where you get stuck to not do anything. You have enough knowledge. I can tell you have enough knowledge.
Yeah.
Just go do it. And you got it. Just go do it.
Yeah. She says, gosh, I feel a certain kind of way now. I have to do more research to help people. Tammy, I'm telling you, this is what you do. I'm going to tell you this right now. It's exactly what Johnny just told you. You go do it. Once you have questions, don't try to bullshit your way through. Okay. What you do is, hey, I just need to bring in my partner and see if we can help you out a little bit more. And then you bring in either another wholesaler that's a bit more experienced and they can help you walk you through some things. Okay. That's it. Okay. You can come to me. You can come to Johnny. You can come to whoever's in your market that is a bigger wholesaler that is willing to work with you. Okay. I JV'd my first 3 deals. Okay. My first deal was $1,333. It was the best $1,333 that I ever made. You know how much we sold the house for? Okay. It was $8,000. And I still made $1,300. It was split 3 ways. Not the $1,300. $1,300 was my portion, but the whole assignment fee was split 3 ways. I had a partner, and then I brought in another wholesaler. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but you have to speak with as many people as you can, and you learn from every new person.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback off of what he was saying, there's wholesalers and there's people out there. There are so many Facebook groups. One Facebook group that I love is the Creative Finance with Pace Morby. I know he has a Facebook group as well. If you just put in there, hey, I have a seller who's asking me, some questions that I don't know. Does somebody want to jump on the phone with me? People are going to be clamoring at that because they want to help you out. They want to see you get your first deal. So there's so many. This thing that I love about this whole real estate community is there's people who are out there to help, right? And you're going to have my phone number at the end of this. Call me anytime. You're like, hey, Johnny, I need help with this. I have a seller who's ready to go. Do you mind 3-waying with us? And I say, absolutely. Now, don't call me until that seller is ready to jump on a 3-way because I want you to do the work up until that point. But if it starts getting touchy, there's people out there who will help. But you just have to put yourself out there and talk to people, man.
100%. And, the CEO says, how was Johnny reaching out during his first 7 months, text blasting, direct mail, cold calling, and how many hours per week was he putting in on an average until he got his first deal? Before we go to that, just real quick, Tammy, she said she has my information. By all means, reach out to me anytime with any deal. I'm happy to look at it from pretty much anywhere. So I don't know what market you're in. I'm assuming you're in the Detroit market because you're seeing my information, but please do reach out. Now we'll go back to the CEO's question about, what kind of things were you doing during that 7 months?
During the 7 months, it was all cold calling. And then I would call twice. If they don't answer, I would send them a text like Johnny ? And we would go from there. So all cold calling, all hand dialing is what I did. The 7 months kind of encompasses everything, but the time where I was in school, I was probably putting in 10 hours a week. Not a lot. Just kind of in free time. Like, hey, let me just call this on market property or call this one list that I have. But then after that, I was putting in probably 8 to 10 hours a day. So 70-hour weeks just to be good. Because I was calling on Saturdays and Sundays. I was calling every day for that month and a half when I got out of school until I finally got something under contract. So, not a lot in those first couple months because I was in school. But once I hammered it home, probably like 70 hours a week for sure.
So Timothy asked, cold calling from a dialer, and actually he said no, he was hand dialing. Is that right?
Yeah, when I first started, I was hand dialing. I have a dialer now. I had a dialer in the past and then got away from it because it was just a lot with the foreclosures. But I have a dialer now, and a dialer is by far the best thing in the world. Hand dialing
100%
is cool to, get your first deal. But as soon as you close that first deal, dump all that money back into your operations and get a dialer. You need a dialer.
100%. So Johnny Stewart asks, how do you deal with real estate agents who don't understand wholesalers and tries to interfere with your business? This is a great question. I want to hear what you say. That's kind of anybody else who has any questions that if you're watching the replay, please leave a comment. We'll try to get to them. Also, if you want Johnny to come back on here, leave a comment and let us know. We'll have Johnny back on here. We'll dive deeper into everything. But I'd love to hear what you have to say, because maybe next time what we'll do is instead of doing this, I'll make a trip down to Tennessee. We'll do it live.
Yeah.
So
side by side, right? Yeah,
most definitely.
That'd be
So, all
really
right.
cool.
So we'll go back to the question. I'll read it again. Is about real estate agents and wholesalers, them not understanding and tries to interfere with your business.
So this is a phenomenal question. Like I said earlier, I'm not too fond of agents. So what I do is I don't call properties that would be good for cash on market. I kind of got away from that. I call subject to properties that'll be real good sub to opportunities. And the way I find that is I put it in a prop stream. I just filter it down to on market and they have less than 20% equity. So I give them a call. So pitching sub to agents is something that can get my blood boiling a little too much. You have agents who are completely open to it and yeah, I'll run it by them. And then you have agents who are immediately, oh, my seller would never do that. I haven't found an effective way to get them on my team to pitch my offer to them. What I started doing lately is I'm sending them an offer sheet that requires the initial of the seller, because an agent's fiduciary duty is to pitch every offer that comes through. Now that, as you know, that's not the case at all, especially with subject to, because these agents aren't really well versed in it. So they don't want to pitch something that they don't know. My best phone call that I've had with an agent is we actually got on FaceTime and she took notes about everything that I was saying. And I told her, I'm like, hey, I would love to get on a Zoom call with you and your seller so that I can answer all your guys' questions at once. That's how I always try to attack it, but agents aren't really open to that. So, Johnny, that's a great question. I don't have just a concrete answer. I don't have the best way to go about it. I think it's one of those things where they're either open to it or they're not, you know. And I don't know how to. You said we don't convince. I don't know how to convince an agent that selling sub to is the way to go and how it will help a lot of their sellers. For example, I have one property in Clarksville, Tennessee. It's vacant now. He's a soldier. He's overseas, and he'll be overseas for the next 10 years. And has a house in Clarksville that he bought 6 months ago that he cannot sell. And if he sells it, he'd have to cut a check. So I told him, like, hey, I told the agent, I'm like, I will pay your commissions. I will give your seller $5,000 to take that home over subject to. Now, that sounds like a pretty good offer. That agent has completely ghosted me. So it's one of those things you don't really know. They're either for it and they'll listen or they're not. And I haven't been able to convert that person who's not yet.
Most definitely. And that's the biggest thing is that you need to figure out what works. It is a case. Johnny Stewart says it is a case by case, and that's 100% true. So case by case basis, and I will take that is you have to learn how to read people and understand when you're explaining something to them that they're just in one ear and out the other. And so I come back to them and we'll be like, okay, you've had this listing for how many days? And you've had no offers, right? Okay. And this is assuming it's been on the market for, say, 6 months or almost 6 months, and they're about to lose the listing.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you come back to them and be like, hey, you know, my offer is still valid. We're open to it. If we can get on a call with the seller to explain everything, and, you know, you will still get paid, because that's all. The biggest thing is that a lot of them, all they care about is getting paid. They think what you're saying is like a scam to get further down the road. And it's like, no, I want to get you paid. You know?
I even tell them initially in my pitch, like the first thing I say is, hey, if I can pay your commission in full. So that's the first thing that comes out of my mouth. I want to pay your commission in full. I don't want you to take a lower amount. I want to pay you for your listing. And that's always how I go after that. That's the first thing I say.
So you said you do everything virtual. Okay. Yeah. So have you considered going into different markets besides Tennessee?
I've dabbled in Georgia because I have a good partner in Georgia. I've dabbled in Georgia in the Atlanta market. but Tennessee and the Georgia market are kind of where I'm at right now. I taught one of my closest friends who's about to move to North Carolina how to pull the foreclosures in North Carolina, and I'm just kind of his safety net in that market. But Tennessee and a little bit of Georgia is all I'm touching right now. Okay,
awesome. That kind of answers Miss Tammy B's question. Do any of you buy out of state or consider it? So, that's another thing. Is I don't buy right now because I'm a wholesaler. I will eventually buy. So, but we'll see what happens with that. So,
and just just to bounce off of that, buying out of state, I will buy out of state, but I'll buy out of state in markets that I feel comfortable with and markets that I would want to visit. I won't just be buying anything just in random places. It would have to make sense for me and my goals moving forward. But buying out of state and buying outside of my wheelhouse is definitely to come.
Most definitely. Oh, she says she's near Raleigh. I actually used to live in Raleigh, near Raleigh. I used to live in Harbor Springs, North Carolina. So, awesome. So yeah, you can do this. And then the difficult part is for virtual wholesalers here in the Detroit area. It's very hard to comp inside Detroit. It's block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. Okay. And a lot of people don't know. So they usually lock them up way overpriced. And then, so that's why 9 out of the 10 deals that I look at from other JV deals are not deals at all.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
So, with that, so that's just unfortunately that's how it is. So I have to look at that.
Yeah.
The CEO says, let's talk about finding buyers. Are you on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist guy? Is it always 10 days? You have it under contract, or can you go 30 days?
Great question. I'll go from the back to forward. You can do it as long as you want. As long as you and the seller agree, you can have the inspection as long as you want. I'm typically a 10-day guy. I've done 120 days because they want the closing to be far out. So I was like, well, if you want that far out, then can we get an inspection, 20 days? But I'm a 10-day guy. Everybody gets 10 days because if you can't dispo a deal in about 5 days, you probably don't have a deal. Right. Okay. So I'm 10 days and that's it. As far as Facebook, I've never done Craigslist. Facebook is my jam. I found every single last one of my buyers on Facebook. I found my first buyer on Facebook, and I'll probably find my last buyer on Facebook. It's one of those things. I've also gotten duped on Facebook as well. So you got to be careful.
Yes.
And do a lot of vetting. Know who you're working with, just so your deal doesn't get daisy chained around. But know who you're talking to. Do a lot of vetting. But that's how I found all of my buyers. Facebook. I'm in countless amounts of Facebook groups, and when I have something in a certain market, I'll join the Facebook groups in that market, and I'll just go through the comments and see who's doing deals, see who's buying. I'll see somebody post their deal, and I'm like, hey, did this one close? Who bought it? So that's how I kind of go about the vetting process. But Facebook is where I found all my buyers. And of course, word of mouth and going to a couple of meetups. But Facebook is how I found my first one, and it's probably how I found my last one.
Yeah, I go to a lot of local meetups in the area, and that's how I started meeting a lot of my buyers. And then when I started the Facebook group that we're live to right now, I started getting a lot of buyers that way as well. So, but I'm always in the comments. I'm adding value wherever you can. The biggest thing on Facebook is don't try to bring people down because people see that.
Exactly.
Okay. Don't bring negative comments. Oh, that's never going to sell. People will see that. Just leave it alone. Okay. Just leave it be. Now, when you see people saying, oh, I'm interested in a property that's near yours, message them and, hey, I got one right down the street from there. Would you be interested in, So now Tammy brings up another thing is do you pay for a home inspection?
I do not. The buyer pays for that. And at where I'm at now, most of my buyers are pretty seasoned, so they don't even pay for a home inspection. I think if you were selling to a retail buyer, maybe a home inspection is needed. But a lot of these investors, they're not running home inspections.
No, they're just having contractors run through them, you know. But the biggest thing is that, you know, we don't get your traditional home inspection like on the MLS. We say, okay, it's going to need this, it's going to need that. You know, we walk through it and go from there. So now, with that being said, do you walk through you said you do this virtually. So do you walk through any of the properties? Like, how do you get photos? How do you do your marketing good? You know, like how is all that?
Yeah. So my first deal, and actually the deal that I'm doing right now, I have a great relationship with the buyer. So my first deal I got in Memphis, Tennessee. It was 3 hours away from me. And I just put it on Facebook Marketplace. I had no pictures, nothing. I had the street view of Google. And the guy was like, hey, I want to go check it out. And I just sent him directly to the property. The owner lived in Texas, so I knew the owner and that buyer wouldn't talk. So I just kind of trusted him and said, hey, here you go. And he went out to the property, he liked it, and he bought it. And this one now, actually before I even got it under contract, I let him know. I'm like, hey, you know, I can get this under contract at this amount. He's like, hey, can you get me in there? I'd love to buy it. Just get me in there. So before a contract even got signed with the seller, I had him walk it. And that's how I got it. I've hired some boots on the grounds. I got on Facebook, saw somebody in that market. I was like, hey, I'll send you $100 if you can get in there and take some pictures for me. And they've done that. So I've come up with some creative ways to do it. But most of the time, a lot of these buyers, they want to get in and look at it. So your pictures are cool, but they want to get in and look at it anyway. So I just tell them, like, hey, let's sign this contract at this amount. And I got a couple people who are going to come look at it. And it's always worked out for me that way.
100%. So the thing is that I've done that a few times where I've talked with buyers and like, hey, you can come look at it. You know, like basically we both walk through it at the same time. We walk outside the house. He tells me his price. Now I go negotiate it. You know, awesome. And those are the trusted buyers that you work with.
Yeah.
You know, so not every buyer is going to be like that. So you still have to be very, very cautious.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But with, you know, the thing is that how I've worked is if the price is going to be like borderline what it needs to be, I actually need to go through there and, you know, I take photos like I'm walking through the property, but then after I take the photos, I after quite a little while of learning this, I actually also do a video and I do a video on my phone. I walk through it with some commentary. That way, what I can do is I do inside and outside for video as well as pictures. Yeah. And now the buyer, basically, I let them know, hey, I want this just to be a formula for you to walk through it. Let me know what you need based off the photos, based off the pictures, based off the video. That should give you plenty enough to go by. You know? So, and I've had people give me offers sight unseen because of that. You know?
Absolutely.
So
the deal that I did in my hometown, the buyers actually live 30, 40 minutes away, but they were like, I want a house in that area. I don't even have to look at it. I'll buy it. So that's how that one went down. So they didn't take a look at it. I sent a few pictures of the area and they were like, yeah, I'll take it. And that was that.
That's awesome. So I definitely want to hear more about the Tennessee market. What's good areas, what's good thing, you know, places to go. So definitely want to hear more. So I do want to have you back, or we'll do maybe an in-person show or something like that. Yeah. So tell me just real quick, what are you doing in the future, and what can anybody here listening, whether they're listening live or listening on the replay, can help you out with, and how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah. So wide scope. What I want to do is I want to build a wholesale business that operates without me. So at some point in the next 3 or 4 years, I want to completely remove myself, have an engine rolling and deals coming in to where I can start picking which deals I want to keep for my portfolio, which ones I want to fix and flip, and go from there. So that's big picture. That's my goal. That's where I want to get to. Guys, I got YouTube. Follow my YouTube channel, Johnny Stewart III. It's 3 L's, I think. Johnny Stewart and 3 L's. Yep. So subscribe on there. Comment on my videos. I have my link tree in the bio. It has my phone number, my email, every way that you can contact me. I'm on Instagram, j.stewart23. Just get at me. My phone number is very, very easy to find. It's on all my platforms. But give me a call. Give me a call anytime. I have my phone right next to me, and I love helping people. So at any point in time, if you have any question, if you need anything, please give me a call. I'll do my best to give you the right answers or help you find the right answer if I don't have it. So contact me and let's do some work together. Send me all your deals. Send me everything you got. I'd love to take a look at it.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, his link tree is in the bio. It's one link and you can see all his social media, his platforms, everything, his contact info. So go ahead and click that on the link. You know, if for some reason it's not, or you're having trouble, make a comment. I'll send it right over. So no problem. All right.
Thank you.
So with that being said, we are coming to the end of the podcast. I really appreciate all the comments, all the interact. This has been a very, very interactive episode. And because of that, we have gone over on time. Usually this is only about an hour long, but it's been a little bit more than that. So
we're having
really
fun.
appreciate
We're having
it.
fun.
Yeah. So the Johnny Stewart, if you go to the description, there is the link for his contract, for his link tree in the description. My information's in the description, but also my phone number is right here. You can always contact me. You can email me as well. All my information's in the description. Please go ahead and look in there. Happy to help anybody who wants to, who needs help. That's what I'm here for, and go from there. So with that being said, we are going to end the episode. Johnny, just go ahead and stay down. When I bring you down, just go ahead and stay down, and then stay here for a minute. We'll talk after.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for having this wonderful podcast and bringing value. Thank you to everybody who submitted questions, asked questions, and were engaged. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we're all working together and doing something soon. So thank you guys.
Most definitely. And here's a phrase I always like to do. Let's all do deals together. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. And damn, what a hell of